Found out my adopted son's birth mother was trying to kidnap him back. The restraining order and police involvement ended that. My wife and I had been trying for kids for 7 years when we decided adoption was our path. The process took another 2 years of paperwork, interviews, and waiting that felt endless. When we finally got the call about a newborn whose birth mother had changed her mind about keeping him, we rushed to the hospital with hearts pounding and hands shaking. The birth mother seemed genuinely relieved to see us. She was young, maybe 19, with tired eyes that held both sadness and determination. She held our son for about 20 minutes before placing him in my arms, and I swear I felt my entire world shift in that moment. She signed the papers without hesitation, hugged us both, and walked away without looking back. Those first few months were magical chaos. Sleepless nights, endless diaper changes, and the overwhelming joy of finally being parents. Our son was perfect in every way that mattered, with bright eyes and the most infectious giggle. We documented everything, taking hundreds of photos and videos, wanting to capture every milestone. The adoption was finalized when he turned 6 months old. We celebrated with a small party, inviting family and close friends who had supported us through the long journey. I remember holding him that day, officially his father now, feeling like the luckiest man alive. Life settled into a beautiful routine. Our son started walking at 11 months, babbling constantly and showing signs of being incredibly smart. He loved books, stacking blocks, and had this amazing ability to make anyone smile just by looking at them. We enrolled him in a local daycare when he turned 2, and he thrived there, making friends and learning new things every day. Everything seemed perfect until the phone calls started. They began when our son was about 2.5 years old. The calls came at odd hours, usually late at night or early in the morning. Nobody would speak when we answered, just silence followed by the click of hanging up. At first, we thought it was just random spam calls or wrong numbers. The calls became more frequent, sometimes 3 or 4 times a night. We started letting them go to voicemail, but the caller never left messages. The phone company suggested changing our number, but we had given it to so many people for work and family that it seemed like a huge hassle. Then weird things started happening around our house. Our garbage cans would be knocked over, not by animals but clearly by someone going through them. Items would disappear from our yard. Nothing valuable, just odd things like a small garden gnome or a children's toy left outside. We installed a security camera after finding footprints in our flower beds that definitely belonged to an adult. The first time we actually saw her on camera, my blood ran cold. She was crouched behind our car in the driveway at 3 in the morning, just watching our house. The image was grainy, but I recognized her immediately. It was our son's birth mother, though she looked different now, thinner and more desperate somehow. We called the police the next morning, showing them the footage. The officer was sympathetic, but explained that technically she hadn't done anything illegal yet. She was on a public street, and while the behavior was concerning, it didn't constitute a crime. He suggested we document everything and call again if she actually tried to approach our property or contact us directly. 2 weeks later, she showed up at our son's daycare. The director called us immediately, explaining that a woman had come in claiming to be his biological mother and demanding to see him. When they refused and asked her to leave, she became agitated and started yelling about how we had stolen her baby and she wanted him back. The police were called and she was gone by the time they arrived. But the daycare director was shaken, and honestly so were we. This wasn't random behavior anymore. She was actively trying to get to our son, and the pattern was escalating. We hired a lawyer who specialized in adoption cases. He explained that while the adoption was completely legal and final, birth parents sometimes struggled with their decisions years later. He recommended we apply for a restraining order and document every incident thoroughly. The restraining order hearing was scheduled for the following week. We gathered all our evidence: the camera footage, phone records showing the hang-up calls, and statements from the daycare director. Our lawyer was confident we had a strong case, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something worse was coming. The night before the hearing, she tried to break into our house. Our security system went off at 2 in the morning, and we could see her on the camera trying to pry open a window in our son's room. My wife grabbed our son while I called the police, and we locked ourselves in our bedroom until they arrived. She was arrested that night, charged with attempted breaking and entering. The officer who responded was the same one who had taken our initial report, and he seemed genuinely concerned about the escalation. He assured us that this arrest would strengthen our case for the restraining order. The hearing went smoothly. The judge reviewed our evidence and granted a full restraining order, prohibiting her from coming within 500 feet of our family, our home, or our son's daycare. She wasn't present for the hearing, apparently still in custody from the attempted break-in. We thought that would be the end of it. The restraining order was served, she was facing criminal charges, and our lawyer assured us that most people in her situation would back down after legal consequences. We upgraded our security system, changed our phone number, and tried to return to normal life. But 3 months later, she was back. This time, she had somehow obtained information about our son's doctor appointments. She showed up at the pediatrician's office, claiming to be his grandmother and asking about his medical records. The receptionist, thankfully, was well-trained and refused to provide any information without proper identification and parental consent. The doctor's office called us immediately, and we contacted the police. This was a clear violation of the restraining order, and she was arrested again. Our lawyer explained that repeat violations could result in serious jail time, and he was optimistic that this would finally convince her to stop. During this time, our son remained blissfully unaware of the drama surrounding him. He was now 3 years old, full of energy and curiosity, and we worked hard to keep his routine normal and stable. The daycare was incredibly supportive, implementing additional security measures and training their staff on what to do if she appeared again. The real shock came when we learned the truth about her motivations. During the legal proceedings, it came out that she had been struggling with substance abuse issues when she placed our son for adoption. She had recently completed a rehabilitation program and convinced herself that she was ready to be a mother, that she had made a mistake in giving him up. Her family members contacted us through our lawyer, apologizing for her behavior and explaining that she had been in and out of treatment facilities for years. They were concerned about her mental state and wanted us to know that they supported the adoption and believed our son was better off with us. This information was both heartbreaking and terrifying. On one hand, I could understand the pain of a mother who regretted her decision. On the other hand, her actions were becoming increasingly dangerous and unpredictable. The legal system was working but slowly, and we worried about what she might do next. The third violation of the restraining order happened at our local grocery store. She approached us in the cereal aisle where our son was sitting in the shopping cart, happily munching on animal crackers. She walked up calmly, looked directly at him, and said he looked just like his father. I immediately pushed the cart away from her while my wife called the police. She didn't try to follow us or make any aggressive moves, but her presence was a clear violation of the court order. She was arrested in the parking lot 20 minutes later, and this time, the judge sentenced her to 6 months in jail. Those 6 months were the most peaceful we had experienced in over a year. Our son turned 4, started preschool, and we began to feel like we could breathe again. The lawyer suggested we consider moving to a different city, but we had built a life here, had good jobs, and our son was thriving in his school and social environment. When she was released from jail, we were notified by the court system. The restraining order was still in effect, and she was required to attend counseling and regular check-ins with a probation officer. We hoped that the jail time had given her the wake-up call she needed to respect the boundaries and move on with her life. 6 months of peace ended when she hired a private investigator to follow us. We started noticing the same car parked on our street at different times, and our son's teacher mentioned that someone had been asking questions about him at the school. The private investigator was professional and stayed within legal boundaries, but it was clear that she was gathering information about our daily routines. Our lawyer filed a motion to have the restraining order modified to include any agents or representatives acting on her behalf. The judge agreed, and the private investigator was legally required to stop his surveillance. But the damage was done. She now knew our patterns, our favorite restaurants, the park where we took our son to play. The final confrontation happened on a Saturday morning at our son's soccer game. She showed up wearing sunglasses and a hat, sitting in the stands about 50 yards away from us. She didn't approach or try to interact, but her presence was unmistakable. Several other parents noticed her and seemed uncomfortable, whispering among themselves. I called the police from the sidelines, and they arrived within minutes. She was arrested again, this time for the 4th violation of the restraining order. The judge was not lenient this time, sentencing her to 18 months in prison and ordering her to complete a comprehensive mental health evaluation. During her sentencing, she finally spoke directly to us through our lawyer. She apologized for the fear and disruption she had caused and acknowledged that our son was happy and loved. She agreed to give up any future attempts to contact or see him, and her family members testified that they would help ensure she stuck to that commitment. The past 2 years have been different. Our son is now 6 in first grade and has no memory of the tension and fear that dominated his early years. He plays baseball, loves dinosaurs, and has a group of friends who think he's hilarious. We've kept all the documentation from those difficult years, knowing that someday we might need to explain his story to him. We still have security cameras and remain vigilant, but the constant anxiety has faded. Our son asks typical questions about adoption, and we answer them honestly but age-appropriately. He knows he's adopted, knows that his birth mother loved him enough to choose parents who could give him everything he needed. The experience taught us about the complexities of adoption, the importance of legal protections, and the strength we didn't know we had. It also showed us how many people were willing to help and support us through a frightening situation. From the daycare director to the police officers to our lawyer, everyone took the threat seriously and worked to keep our family safe. Our son is thriving now, full of confidence and joy. He's never known a world where he wasn't completely loved and wanted. The legal system ultimately protected us, though it took longer than we would have liked. The restraining order and police involvement did exactly what they were designed to do, creating boundaries and consequences that eventually stopped the dangerous behavior. Looking back, I'm grateful for every photo we took, every milestone we documented, and every moment we treasured. Those early years of parenting were complicated by circumstances beyond our control, but they were also filled with incredible joy and love. Our son is exactly where he belongs, and we are exactly the family we were meant to be.